my childhood.
Thank you for listening to Ruin My Childhood, the podcast where we decide if some things are better off left in the past. I'm Mike.
And I'm Kat.
And this is going to be our last Halloween special of the year for MDXpods.
Because we're recording it on Halloween.
And it's coming out in November. But it's fine. It's totally fine.
You know what? That's pretty good considering my life is a dumpster fire today.
Yeah, you've had a rough week, and we've had a really busy month, so we did have the last episode go out a little late, but we had some health issues. Katrina got really sick, I got really sick, then we went out of town for about a week and a half, and then we got sick again, and there's been some phone issues, and there's just been a lot going on this last couple weeks. Our cats are making a mess, you know, as you do. But what are we going to be covering this week?
Against my better judgment, we are covering Scary Movie.
We are covering Scary Movie, and this movie's, I know I don't really remember too much of this movie, but I do remember it being a pretty hard R, pretty sexually graphic and a little gory. So we're going to, just put out that warning that this one is going to have some adult themes, and just if you normally listen to this with your kids, maybe don't this time.
Yeah, don't.
And we're going to not censor ourselves like we normally do, just because of the content. It's going to be very hard to actually discuss this and not be vulgar and crass, I guess.
Not be our true selves.
Right. So, I think we should just get into it. What do you remember about this movie?
I remember that it was a really dumb comedy.
Right.
And it was over the top, crappy Wayans Brothers typical kind of stuff.
So, yeah, this was kind of the movie that put Marlon and Shawn Wayans on the map. Like, they had one of their TV shows, and they had each done other stuff, but this was kind of like the start. They did this one, Scary Movie 2, and then they had like White Chicks and Little Man, and they were kind of a force for like a decade. And
it kind of launched this era of dumb comedy,
right?
That people really ate up. Well, I don't know. I guess you kind of had like the Nutty Professor, and then this just took that kind of humor to another level.
I think this goes beyond that, because the Nutty Professor wasn't a straight spoof of any a genre, where this was like a spoof. Like, we hadn't had anything like this since the late 80s, early 90s with like Airplane, Naked Gun, and kind of just brought that style of movie back. And unfortunately, this franchise went on until like Scary Movie 5, and then we had Date Movie, Epic Movie, Superhero Movie, and it just those weren't very good. But these ones were regarded as pretty good. The first two that the Wayans Brothers did. Do you remember any particular scenes?
I remember the scene in the locker room with, was it Shannon Elizabeth? And
is she in that movie? Didn't know she. I don't know.
I think she is, and she's sort of mocking the Reaper as he comes to attack her, and basically the Reaper,
Ghostface.
I mean, because doesn't he have a scythe at one point?
I don't think so. I think it's like a knife.
In Scream, doesn't he have a scythe?
In Scream, he has a knife, and then I think this movie also spoofs I Know What You Did Last Summer, and he has like a fish hook or something like that.
Something like that. I don't know. I just remember that, and then like she falls, and she's like, "Oh, am I supposed to break my leg?" And then she gets like a gnarly compound fracture.
Oh.
Yeah. That's pretty much what I remember about this stupid movie.
I remember like two scenes. I remember, of course, and I actually had the mask. So there was actually some actual merchandise for this movie. And the mask with the tongue sticking out was one of them. And I actually had that mask. And then the only other scene that I can vividly remember is... so, Scream, I'm going to base this more on Scream. Scream has, like, Neve Campbell's character's boyfriend, I think it's Skeet Ulrich in Scream, really wants to, like, bang. And she doesn't want to, and then she does by the end of the movie. Well, they make fun of that plot line here, and then the guy finishes, and it's like a geyser. And, like, God. She, like, sticks to the ceiling or something ridiculous like that. But that's all I really remember about this movie. I only saw it, I think, once or twice when I was young. This came out in 2000, which is a year before our cutoff for this podcast.
I pretty much avoided this movie.
Really?
It was on, I mean... I wasn't a big partier, but I did go to parties with my friends in high school, or around the time that I should have been in high school. And they were all into this kind of crappy humor. And so I just kind of wander the party aimlessly, trying to not watch the terrible movies.
This was a iconic movie. It surprised me that you want to be a little bit more
I was
familiar
not
with
a fan.
That's funny.
I would just avoid it.
I know the second movie was the one that was probably more popular. I didn't really remember that one, but I know I saw this at least twice, but I think we should move over to what our fans say about the movie.
Our fans.
A lot of people, why that? Like, we got that a lot. I got countless messages with that as the topic. The other one that I got was from Nikki Britton, says, "Run, bitch, run."
I don't know.
I mean, that could be any character in the movie, honestly. It could be at any point, so we'll look out for it.
I have one from Dan Johnson that says, "Mindless screaming, stupid high schoolers running around. Everyone in the school was worshipping the lead actress. I watched, enjoyed it, and had my fill." Smiley face.
Okay. We also got a bunch that I'm pretty sure are from the second movie. Like, I got a couple about a ghost saying your pants are down, but I'm pretty sure that was the second, because I don't think there was any like ghosts or supernatural elements in the first movie. I think that's the second and the third one. But one that I did get from Alexander Rock Your Socks is left, right, left, yeah, that jacket tight. Yeah, mean.
What?
I don't know. That could be from this.
I don't know. I tried to block it out.
For the most part, it was really just that. We got a lot of that.
Let's go watch this piece of crap.
Hello?
Wanna have a little fun?
Who is this?
Tell me your name and I'll tell you mine.
I don't think so.
Do you like scary movies?
Mm-hmm.
What's that noise?
Oops. I farted. I didn't think you would hear me.
Oh, stinky.
From the people who had nothing to do with Scream.
Daddy! Daddy!
Decker got killed last night.
She sits next to me in English class.
Was she a friend?
No. I was gonna cheat off her test today.
They didn't make the rules.
Oh my God, he's dead!
They're just too stupid to follow them.
We have to call the police.
No way! I ain't going to jail. It's okay, I'm fine. We'll get rid of the vibe.
Oh. This summer.
Okay, so we just watched Scary Movie, and it was interesting.
So we countered it out. 20 seconds into this movie.
We had to stop it.
We laughed so hard at the first joke, which was nothing more than a fart.
Right.
Because we are children.
So the beginning of the movie is spoofing the opening to Scream, which Scream had Drew Barrymore in, a glorified cameo role and little thing. And Carmen Electra plays a character named Drew, and it's basically the same thing. Somebody calls in, "Hey, you like scary movies?" But within 20 seconds, the only line that we heard so far is, "Do you like scary movies?" And then you hear just a little and
what was that?
What was that? And so the killer's like, "What was that?" And she's like, "Oh, I farted. I didn't think you'd hear." And he's like, "No, not that sound, the popping sound." She's like, "Oh, I'm making popcorn." And he's here, like, just a popcorn thing on a Jiffy Pop on the stove, which several minutes later, you see is like 3 feet in diameter.
It's ridiculous.
But we stopped the movie and we're like, did that really just happen? Did that stupid joke really just happen? And we watched it like 3 times just to verify that the stupid joke actually occurred.
It started off ridiculous. You know what's funny? I forgot just how old this movie was. So my notes say her 90s slut makeup, because everyone in every movie that came out in the 90s who was supposed to be a slut had the same makeup.
Right.
They just established this is a slut as seen by her slut makeup. But when I saw her, I thought, oh, that looks like a young Carmen Electra. But it didn't dawn on me that it was actually her.
It was her.
It's so weird.
Well,
you forget how old these movies are.
Well, this is 2000, so this is 18 years old, which is crazy. For our podcast, we've said we're not going to do anything past 2001, because then we're at 13. We want to try to keep it as childhood. So this barely made the cutoff. And as soon as Carmen Electra came on, I actually started remembering, little things were clicking. And, there's a point where was
this before or after she dated Prince?
This was after, because they make a joke about it.
Oh.
So it's funny you bring that. So there's a point where the killer is ask her a couple of questions. Yeah.
It's 2 seconds.
It's literally just that, and then she makes a comment. So he says something along the lines of like, I want to see what what's your name? And she's like, why? And he's like, I want to know who I'm looking at. And then you see him looking at like her Playboy magazine, Carmen Electra's Playboy. And she's like, what? And he's like, yeah, I'm looking at you. And he goes, I want to see what you look like from the inside. And she says, turn to page 54 or something like that.
It's nonstop right from the beginning.
Right.
Nonstop jokes. None of them good.
Right.
In the entire film.
This one's going to be a little hard, just like when we did Austin Powers, just because it's, so many jokes. It's kind of really hard to just discuss it.
It's kind of really hard.
It's kind of really hard, yeah. Shut up. But I really liked this opening scene where it's like, he ends up saying like, I'm gonna come kill you. And she's like, my boyfriend's gonna come here and he's big and he's black and he's gonna beat you up.
He's black and he'll kick your ass.
Yeah, and then
that's an actual quote
right.
I wrote down. I'm like, oh, 90s.
And so he says, no, like, didn't he used to be black? Or I don't remember exactly what the joke was. Doesn't he just wear purple and stuff? She goes, that's not my boyfriend. I just fucked him a couple of times. And then you see Prince tied up in the yard and he's just like, hee hee, like almost like a Michael Jackson sound.
Didn't Carmen Electra say that she'd never tell? I think she was just hired to be like a really good looking beard. Personally.
Downright plausible.
That's my conspiracy theory with Carmen Electra.
Wasn't she with Michael? Oh no, was she with Michael Jackson at one point?
No, that was Lisa Marie Presley.
Just Lisa Marie Presley? Okay. So anyway, like, this scene's ridiculous. The guy ends up breaking into the house. There's a table with a bunch of weapons, and she grabs a banana. And then later on, like, she's running around. All her clothes get caught on stuff, and she's ending up running around in slow motion in the sprinklers. Yeah. And
I do like when she runs outside, and there are two signs. Like, one says safety, and the other says death, and she runs towards death. I do think that's funny that they did mock that aspect of it, because 90s horror movies were not good.
Well, like, Scream was good. The first Scream movie was good. I actually watched it recently. It's actually really good. It lasts like 10 minutes.
It's ridiculous how you're constantly saying, okay, that's really obvious. Why would you go do that?
Well, that's kind of the tropes of the movies. It's the, what do you call it, dramatic irony, where we know something, but the people on the screen don't know. And, it's that kind of thing. But ultimately, the thing that I remembered as soon as I saw her in the movie is her breast implant gets stabbed and pulled out.
Okay, I did laugh at that.
Or that blowjob in the opening. And he hits her and she flips like...
So she runs out into the street and there's a car driving towards her and she's waving her hands and screaming, "Daddy!" So it's her dad. And he's distracted and doesn't see her and freaking hits her. But
flips like a million feet
the
in the
dummy
air.
That they hit with the car flies like 30 feet in the air, and then the mom pops up into frame like she was giving him roadhead.
And she's like, "What was that?" Nothing. And he puts her back down.
Ridiculous.
And then it moves into the actual plot of the movie, which basically it's mostly a Scream parody. There's a few little I Know What You Did Last Summer kind of things, and there's a few other nods. So I already mentioned Carmen Electra being named Drew based off Drew Barrymore. Shannon Elizabeth was in this movie. You did mention her, at the top of the episode. Her name is Buffy.
Why was she so popular in the 90s?
Because she showed her boobs in American Pie.
Oh, okay. That explains it.
Yeah. So she, her character's name is Buffy because she plays the Sarah Michelle Gellar role and everything. So little other nods to, that kind of thing. But God, this movie's dumb.
It's so dumb. There were a couple things that I laughed at. What's her name? Anna Faris's character at one point shows her boobs to this guy. She goes to pull open her top, and then it's just an extreme close-up, and it's a hairy man chest.
So
some man boobs.
So this goes
and
almost...
They do a long lingering shot and let them jiggle a little bit.
So they do this thing. It's a very similar gag to Men in Tights with the chastity belt thing. So this guy, her boyfriend, really wants to have sex, and he's pressuring her to have sex throughout the entire movie. And so at one point she has electrified chastity belt, but she goes, and he keeps trying to get her to jerk him off and whatnot. And so she goes, "How about a PG-13 ending?" Is what's PG-13? And then she does that flash, and he's just and then he falls out the window because it's disgusting.
Oy vey.
So as soon as we started watching, one of the other things that I remembered, I'm going to skip to the end and then immediately come back to the beginning, is Sean Wayne's character is like the football player jock guy, and then just like Scream, there's a multiple killer twist at the end.
He's the good-looking one who can actually act, right?
Yeah, he's the better. Yeah, he's a pretty handsome man, I'd say.
I think he's actually done other stuff and
Yeah,
been good in it.
they've actually both have done dramatic roles. So one of the, I'm going to go on a quick tangent. So what's really funny is the boyfriend character who for Anna Faris, they actually really wanted Jared Leto, but he turned down the role to be in Requiem for a Dream, which Marlon Wayans is actually in that movie as well.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
such a good movie.
Yeah. So that's
I
funny that they're
love
both
Jared Leto.
they're actually both in that movie. Sean Wayne's character, I remember at the end having the twist where it's the multiple killers, where the second killer ends up being the boyfriend, and he's like, "Oh, I realized that we're gay," and he's like, "I'm not gay," and he goes, "But you took me to the gay club. It's like they played good music." "Oh, well, you know, I sucked your dick." He goes, "Yeah, it's not gay to get your dick." So something along those lines, right? But so I remember that twist and thinking, "Oh, he's gay," and they totally played up the entire movie. He's making all these super gay stuff, talking about how guys have like great asses, and then he does this thing where he like folds his tank top up. He like wears a yellow tank top. Is this gay? No, not at all. And then he rolls it up and shows his belly button. But belly, what about this? Nah, no, not at all. Oh, okay. And then he has his girlfriend wear like the football pads and like starts humping her butt and everything. And then he goes into a glory hole and has a penis go in his ear. So it's like the whole movie. I forgot how much gay stuff was in this movie. Once again, it's a product of its time. Like,
yeah,
you could
very
not
much.
do that today.
No.
And we've discussed a lot how a lot of sitcoms, Friends,
Pretty much
30 Rock.
universally, any comedy that came out before like 2015, honestly,
yeah.
had homophobic jokes.
I didn't realize how much.
Right.
And I didn't realize how many, like, peni,
And
were in
they
this
always
movie.
kept it in the gray area where it wasn't like, you know that they didn't mean it to be insulting, but people, like, it is homophobic
Right.
just in that people looked at gay people as the butt of a joke.
Right. And they weren't being gay is wrong. It was just
Right.
like, making homosexuality a joke. But I forgot how much of it there was in this movie.
Right.
Like, constantly.
It's bad.
And there's a penis in a photo, like a micro penis. There's a penis that goes through a glory hole and then into somebody's ear. And then there's a scrotum.
Are there any actual boobs in this movie?
No, there's no. I don't think there
I
are
think
any
that's
actual
hilarious.
boobs. No, I don't think there were.
I don't think you see actual nipple, you just see fake peen.
Y-
I mean, the
No, you
micro
actually
penis
see-
might have been real.
No, I think there's real, and I think it was a real penis that
I
came.
think
through
that was
the
a real
glory hole.
micro penis. There's no way
No. So there's
that
two.
he let a real penis come through
That
a
was
glory
CG.
hole and touch
no,
his face.
No. There was a.
That was a
first, Initially,
prosthesis.
you just see a penis.
I know a fake dick when I see one.
Snack dick.
Snack dick.
I mean, I don't even know how to discuss this movie, like what we want to bring up, just because it's so random.
It's disjointed. It's like Austin Powers. We had the same issue where it's just rapid fire bad jokes one after the other. But I guess the point with these jokes where it's just piled on so thick that you're like, this is so ridiculous, and it being ridiculous
Right.
makes it funny.
I did catch the run, bitch, run. It was Marlon Wayans, and he played the stoner guy Shorty. Who his character was really annoying for the most part, but has some of the best scenes in the movie. So, there's a point where, the news is covering that Carmen Electra's character got killed, and you see a bunch of news vans, and they're all, there's a Spanish language one, and they're talking about it, and then there's the person who's her name's Gail, and she's supposed to be the Courtney Cox character, and then it moves to like a black news company. They're like, white folks are getting killed. We're leaving. We're out of here, and they run away. And then,
Oh god, yeah. That was pretty out there.
Yeah, and then one of the characters, Shannon Elizabeth's character was like, oh, I hope I can go on the news. Like, no, they're going to pick the most ignorant person, and then they get Shorty, who's like stoned, and he's like, were you close with her? Nah, she was super hot, but no, I was never close to her. And then they made like a weird roofie joke, like he tried to roofie her once, which is not okay.
The black joke, there's this one scene, is it Anna Faris's character?
Yeah.
She gets to a computer, and I mean, like, you can text 911 now, but that's a recent thing. I still don't think you can do this online, even like now in 2018.
No.
But she goes online to like a messenger app, and she's like sending an instant message to 911. She's like, white woman in trouble, and like instantly 6 or 7 squad cars show up.
Like they just appear at her house. So going back to Marlon Wayans' character, of course his character is the one that starts the WAZZZZZZZZZZZUP.
Oh, that haunted us for decades to come.
I mean, decades, because I mean, they made fun of it, and they still were doing it in The Office. It's one of those things that anytime there's a character who's a little older, who thinks they're younger, they reference that. Like, I'm pretty sure it was in Parks and Rec, where there was a character who's probably in their 30s. They're like, oh, he's an old man. And he's like, no, I'm not. Why that? Like,
we will never not know what it was.
Exactly.
Anyone who was, like, over the age of 8 when this movie came out will forever be haunted by WAZZZZZZZZZZZZZUP.
Right. And it's going to be a joke for any time somebody's a little too old for the situation and they're trying to act cool, they'll do that. But one of the things that I thought was hilarious was at the end, he gets shot and you see, like, smoke coming out. And he's, like, trying to breathe it in, and he's like, do you want to hit this? Stupid.
I mean, you're going to die anyway.
Right.
Might as well.
I mean, the flashback scene that was making fun of I Know What You Did Last Summer wasn't very good. There was another flashback scene where Anna Faris's character gets, like, a note and saying, like, I know what you did last Halloween.
There were, like, 4 or 5 flashback scenes.
But there was one where she was doing something with the boyfriend. The boyfriend kept trying to get her to, like, jerk him off or something, and she's like, really, that? And goes, no, when you killed somebody, you fucker. Like, another note, like, they're communicating back and forth, like, stuff like that. Let's see.
I loved that scene, though. This was in the same scene when she got that note. She looks out the classroom window to her left, because that's such a horror movie trope where someone looks and they see the thing and they look around to see, oh my god, has anyone else seen this? And they look back and the villain is gone. But in this, they actually, like, they show her seeing him, and then they show her looking away, and then they show him, like, awkwardly running away,
like
and
Francis.
then her looking back, and then the view with him gone, which I think is hilarious, because they never show that in movies, like, and it's always, in a horror film, they're not just hallucinating, like, the villain was actually there, but they never show how the villain had to awkwardly frolic out of frame to get out of there quickly. Like, that had to look ridiculous.
So on Remake Rewind, we covered Halloween, and I brought that up, too, where, like, that happens with Michael Myers consistently. He never runs. In every Halloween movie,
that's the secret.
He walks very slowly, and in this one, so I ended up calling him like a scary Batman. I did like the scene where they're at the movie theater, and Regina Hall's character is unfortunately the stereotypical, talking during the movie, and the killer goes to kill her, like stab her, and then the audience like takes the knife from him, and then like everybody starts pulling. There's like a rabbi, there's a police officer, old women. They all just start killing her, making fun of the opening to Scream 2.
That's ridiculous. I don't think I ever saw Scream 2.
Yeah, so that scene, I think that's actually Jada Pinkett Smith in that scene. So it's in Scream 2, they made a movie about the events in Scream. It gets obviously very meta. And somebody goes to kill her. They kill her in the theater, and they think that's part of like the movie. So she's screaming and everyone just is like clapping and cheering, and that's kind of what this is.
I did really like how, they drag out the WAZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZ but towards the end it gets to the point where the mask actually changes quite drastically as it's getting more as it's getting higher.
Yeah, so it has the little tongue sticking out, but then you're right, like the eyes get a little squinty,
the eyes
and
get
then
all
it starts getting like a wrinkled face, and then the mouth starts getting a little relaxed and slack-jawed. The other thing this was, we brought it up when we covered The Matrix, how often The Matrix got spoofed, but this one had like a 5-minute Matrix fight scene spoof where she jumps up in the air and freezes, and then the killer does the bend over backwards thing.
I completely missed it, because I think the scenes before that were just so asinine that my brain shut off.
You asked did the Matrix scene happen as it was happening?
No, you asked if the Matrix scene happened, and I said, I don't think so.
It hadn't.
And I had been watching the whole film.
It hadn't at that point when I asked. So there's 2 different scenes where the killer comes into the house, and Anna Faris's character has to like fight him off. And I remember that scene being in one of the fight scenes with her, but it was actually the second one. So there's a point where she jumps up and she does like the Trinity freeze, eagle crane kick thing. And then the killer does the bending over backward thing. And then he's like, wait, stop. And his like back is literally bent 90 degrees and he has to crack it again. But then the fight keeps going. She runs up the walls, and then she jumps off the walls, and then she does like an Irish jig while floating in the air. Like, it was what we talked about in The Matrix. It was just one of those things that we were never going to not see for a really long time.
Oh, we forgot the really bad ableist joking. Shannon Elizabeth's brother, Doofy.
Oh, yeah. So
it's
that was
bad.
the thing. But it turns out it was a twist. It was like what is it? The Usual Suspects twist. So there's a character named Doofy who's based off Dewey. and he's obviously very handy capable, and it's really dumb throughout the movie. Like, there's a scene where like two cops are talking about how they fingered some prostitutes that got arrested, and they go, "Hey, smell my finger," and he goes, "What's that?" He goes, "That's how you know a man." And then we go, "Smell my finger." "What's that?" "My ass." You know, it's a lot of stupid stuff. There's a thing where
and he's constantly drooling on himself.
He's constantly drooling. He masturbates with a vacuum. You know, and they're like, "Hey guys, I told you not to bother me while I'm cleaning my room."
I actually heard about a guy who did that with his vacuum, and part of the suction was provided by blades just inside the hose.
Ugh!
Don't put your dick in a vacuum, guys.
Put it in a box. Give it to a gift for your girlfriend.
Okay, seriously, like, if you got stuff on the inside of the vacuum hose, that's gross. Don't do that. That's
No.
rude.
But yeah, ultimately what ends up happening
Disclaimer.
is they do a twist on the twist. So just like in Scream, it turns out the boyfriend and Matthew Lillard's character were like both the killers, and they're like setting it up where they're like, "Oh, you know, too many scary movies desensitized us and made us go crazy," or whatever, right? So in this, they pretend they're going to do that, but no, it's just because they're actually gay, and then they have the scene when they're not gay. But it turns out that there actually was a third killer, which was Doofy, and then at the end, you know, nobody suspected him, so he walks out of the precinct, and you just see this long shot of him walking down the street. You see he's walking all pigeon-toed and everything, and then the walk starts getting a little better, and then he like rips off his shirt, and then he's just in like a James Dean white t-shirt kind of thing, and he rips off his fake mustache, and he's like a super handsome guy, and then he just gets in the car with the reporter and drives off. You know,
But his sister didn't think...
It
doesn't make any sense,
that's
because his character, his sister in the movie is Shannon Elizabeth.
Right.
So, was he just pretending
It's
to
a
be
long con.
disabled his entire life?
You gotta do the long con, honey.
Did he pretend to have some kind of an accident and then be...
It's a long con.
That's stupid.
Oh, we didn't... One of the scenes that I really liked...
I'm gonna shoot this movie full of holes, Michael.
Right.
You can't think too hard.
Right. One of the things... You know, there's a really dumb scene, but it's also kind of funny. I mean, all
really
of
dumb
them,
scene?
Yeah. But there's a point where they're making fun of Blair Witch, and they're also making fun of like
God.
the urban legends where you go up to like make out point or whatever. And so the reporter's there, and she sees this girl in the car by herself. She's like, "I wonder why she's here by herself." She goes up and she interviews the girl, like, "Why are you here by yourself?" "Oh, my boyfriend heard a weird noise and he went to inspect it, but you know, it's been like 10 minutes. She goes, and the reporter's like, "You realize your boyfriend's dead, right? Like, he's been murdered, and you're probably about to be murdered too." And then they stand by and let the murderer kill this girl.
Yeah.
And then they run off into the woods, and then it's like Blair Witch, and she's like, "I'm so scared." And then her nose just starts dripping, and then like they have
It's
her
really
talk
bad
for like
CG.
a minute, and it's just dripping for like a whole minute.
Did you
It's
think
stupid.
Blair Witch was real when that came out?
I've never actually seen Blair Witch.
I've never seen it either, but a lot of people thought it was real,
No,
and I'm like,
I-
there's no way this is real if
If it
people
was
actually
real,
died.
yeah. If people actually died, they wouldn't be releasing it.
Did you ever drive up to a makeout point?
No.
When you were a teenager? Before they built
I mean,
all
you
of
and
the
I used
houses,
to drive around and go to like random roads.
the
and-
back roads.
Yeah.
But back in the day, before they built like all the super expensive homes on Mentelli and Gilroy, there used to actually be like a lookout point where people would drive up and make out. I think I drove up there once, and the entire time all I could think was, this is how horror movies start. I want to go home. So then we went home.
I'm just trying to think if there's anything. I mean, there's obviously a lot of... the one scene that was actually, I thought was pretty great.
One time my sister took me for one of those ride-alongs because she didn't want to make out with a guy.
That's weird.
They were going to go for a drive, and she's like, "Can my sister come?" And I'm like, "I guess I'm going with you."
That's weird. So, there's only like 1-2 more scenes I kind of want to talk about briefly, and then I think we can wrap it up. But, there's a scene where Shannon Elizabeth's character is at a teen beauty pageant, and like all the names are stupid. There's one that's like Miss Oral or something like that, and like they have like the little sashes.
Oh, the
But-
coach, Ms. Mann.
Well, that's later, but in this particular scene, she's gonna go for the pageant. They're like, it's her turn for the talent portion. They're like, "What are you gonna do?" She's like, "I'm gonna do a dramatic reading because I'm an actress."
Ugh.
And so she's like, her boyfriend is up in the bleachers by himself or whatever on a
He's
balcony.
in the balcony.
And he's getting like killed, and she's like, "Stop! Look, you monsters!" And everything, and like the audience is crying, and everyone thinks she's doing an amazing job. And she goes to the backstage, and she's like, "My boyfriend was getting killed, and nobody's doing it." They're like, "You won!" And she's like, what? I won? And all the characters, like, one of the other characters is like, dude, your boyfriend just came. And she's like, fuck Greg, I won.
It's ridiculous.
It's dumb.
This movie is a pile of shit.
I mean, yeah.
It's a festering turd of a motion picture. I had low expectations, and I was still disappointed.
Originally, like, I was gonna, when we do our little trivia stuff, I like to, put people who, were almost cast. At one point, like, almost every starlet in, 90s starlet was gonna be in this movie, but a lot of them passed, like, Alicia Silverstone passed, and a lot of people passed on this movie. I get it. This movie was originally, like, they took 2 different scripts that, like, Dimension Films had, and just mashed them together. Kind of thing. So, like, this was kind of like just a whatever movie, and
it was probably really financially successful, though.
It was super successful. I mean, they put out the second movie a year later, and then the third movie a year later.
When
and
you
then the fourth
cater
movie a year
to
later.
the lowest common denominator, you're gonna make money.
Right. And so that's the thing is, they did 5 of these movies in 5 years.
That's so sad.
So, the first movie and the second movie had Regina Hall, Anna Faris, the 2 Wayans brothers. And then when you went to 3, it just had Regina Hall and Anna Faris, and then it changed to PG-13. 4 had those 2 as well, and then the 5th movie was Ashley Tisdale.
Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, like we said, I mean, they started doing epic movie and date movie, and the thing is, those movies weren't great. People didn't even like those movies, but they were really cheap to make. And so, if you put $10 million in these movies and they make $60-70 million, like,
right,
it's worth it.
You're gonna keep making them until they start breaking even, and then you stop.
Exactly, and that's what happened with, like, the 5th one. Other than that, do you have anything else you want to talk about with this movie?
No, just that it has made me fear for humanity.
Oh, one other joke that I thought was funny before we go on. There's a point where, at the beginning of the movie, right before the PG-13 flash, it starts playing the I don't want to wait for my life.
And James Vanderbeek, knowing exactly who James Vanderbeek is, climbs through the window. I love that about him, that he's never had any delusions about exactly where he stands in society.
He's played himself in so many things. So
I love that.
He played himself, he's like, oh, wrong set, kind of thing. He played himself in Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back. He played himself in the bee from Apartment 23.
He had a little bit of a comeback in Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23.
But he played himself.
Right. We were sexually incompatible. It was like trying to stuff a cucumber into a coin purse.
That only lasted like 10 episodes or something like that. But yeah, he's always played himself.
I know.
He played Dawson
I love that.
Or himself.
He made his money doing Dawson's Creek, and then he realized that he was never going to recapture that, and he just has owned it. Because, so many actors, like, they make it big with their first show or whatever, and no one wants to see them as anything else. And so either
David
they
Duchovny.
either they can work knowing exactly who they are and where they stand, or they can not work. And honestly, I'd rather work.
Right. It's just the same thing like Kelsey Grammer did Frasier for 20 years, and he's trying to go back to it.
Yeah. Oh, it's too bad he's such a Republican.
Yeah. Anyway. Katrina.
What is it, Michael?
Love of my life.
Love of my life.
I don't know if you guys know this. This is a podcast. Obviously, it's an
a podcast.
audio. It's a podcast.
Podcast. Your dog, cat dog.
This is a podcast. It's a mainly audio medium, and you can tell that Katrina has a lovely voice, but she's a very beautiful woman.
Oh, thank you.
I love you. But
I'm objectively attractive to some people.
Sure.
I'm not my own ideal.
That's fine. You're my ideal.
I like darker women.
Anyway, love of my life. What are we going to be covering for our next episode?
I already forgot. We're covering Good Burger.
Oh.
Welcome to the Good Burger home of the Good Burger. Can I take your order?
Yep, that's what we're going to watch next.
I'm excited.
So, yeah, thank you guys for listening. You guys can check out Katrina where?
I'm all over the internet at Katrinosity, especially my YouTube channel, which really needs views.
Check it out, guys. This our vacations really messed with our social media, so go check out her YouTube. There's a link
it's bad.
below.
I just did a video where my 3-year-old niece does my makeup, and I think it's entertaining.
Adorable.
She's so cute.
The other thing you guys can do For all the information about our podcasts, you can check us out on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.
All of these
MDXpods.
episodes are also on our podcast's YouTube channel.
That's correct. I was just going to bring it up. We are on YouTube. Link below.
Oh, sorry.
And link below if you're listening to the podcast, or if you're listening to this, watching this on YouTube, well, then links to everything else is in that. So thank you guys for listening. Check out our other podcast, Remake Rewind. There might be a new podcast coming pretty soon. We're not ready to quite announce it, but pretty soon there might be something new. But anyway, thank you guys for listening.
I love
Bye.
you.
Oh, man.
Do you ever do that? Like, you hang up with your doctor or something, you're like, I love you.
No. I know I've called a teacher mom before. Like I think kindergarten or first grade. Like when you're really young.
I've accidentally told a lot of people I love them.
I think I have actually done it before, actually, come to think. I'm sure I've done it at some point.
I think I've done it to, like, I think I did it to Darla at Target. Love you.
R.I.P.
Oh.
Bye.